Hi, it's been a while since I read you guys a book. Today I'm going to be sharing with you The Hungry Coat by Demi. And this story is from Turkey. I love this book so much because the illustrations or the drawings are awesome. And there's a lesson in it too. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. Let's read. The Hungry Coat by Demi. A tale from Turkey. Look at this little man. What's he doing? Funny pictures? And look at these lovely coats. I wouldn't mind having one. What about you? They're so colorful. For all who wear heaven in their hearts. Once upon a time in Turkey, there lived a funny little wise man named Nasreddin Hoca. He wore a huge white turban and a worn-out coat made of patches upon patches. Riding about on his little gray donkey, he liked to help whomever he could. One day, Nasreddin Hoca heard a great commotion inside a caravansary, a hostel for travelers. What's going on? A frisky goat had gotten loose inside the kitchen. Kicking and prancing, she was breaking all the dishes, knocking over pots and pans, and spilling all the cooking oil. The cook was screaming, and a few travelers were slipping in the oil as they tried to catch the goat. Oh my! Whoops! Because he loved goats so much, Nasreddin always carried a sweet apple in his pocket for them. He quickly took out the apple and cut it into little pieces. Look at that. So as the little goat nibbled to the last piece, Nasreddin was able to catch her. Gently, Nasreddin put the little goat back into her pen, and everyone cheered. Woohoo! The caravansary owner invited Nasreddin to eat with the other travelers, but Nasreddin declined as he was on his way to a banquet at the home of a rich friend. Nasreddin trotted off, waving to all and happy to have helped. Look at all those people. He was so late now that he realized he would not have time to change his coat, which was not only worn out with patches upon patches, but also oily, dirty, and smelling of goat. Oh my. When Nasreddin's friend opened the door to Nasreddin, he was shocked. He was afraid his other guests would laugh at him for being friends with such a shabby, smelly man. Oh my. Nasreddin simply jumped off his donkey, hugged his friend, and joined the banquet. He was so happy to be among friends that for a while he didn't notice something very strange. No one was facing him. All the guests had turned their backs toward Nasreddin, and when the servants brought dinner into the room, the food was served to everyone but him. That's not very nice now, is it? Before long, Nasreddin was left sitting alone with nothing at all to eat. Where'd he go? There he is. Several times he tried to start a conversation by yelling to a guest at the opposite side of the room. But no one listened and no one responded. Nasreddin looked thoughtfully at his friends. Each man was scrubbed until he glistened. Each one was wearing his best coat. Then Nasreddin looked down at his own coat, worn out with patches upon patches, oily, dirty, and smelling of goat. Very quietly, Nazretin slipped out the door. He mounted his little donkey and began trotting home when he had an idea. Look how lovely that is. At home, Nazretin jumped into a tub of hot water. Poured in a whole jar of perfumed silk crystals and scrubbed himself until he glistened and the whole room was filled with bubbles. Beautiful bathroom. Even his donkey's taking a shower, see? Is he surprised? Nazretin dried and powdered himself. Then he put on new shoes with tasseled toes, a magnificent new turban with sparkling jewels, and a fine new coat of shining silk with golden threads. Look at that. And look at his fancy shoes. Nazretin preened himself before a mirror. Never had he been so completely well dressed. Never had anyone worn a coat like this one. How fine he looked. Nazretin strutted out of his house. Everyone nodded respectfully as he swaggered along the street, heading back to his rich friend's home. So he's back. And look at those men peering over the wall. A servant ushered Nazretin into the banquet hall, and his smiling host immediately served him food and drink. Look at that. Everyone smiled and nodded at Nazretin. What a fine figure he made. What a fine coat. Nazretin was the most popular man at the banquet. Nazretin picked up the choicest grilled lamb chop, but instead of putting it in his mouth, Nazretin put it inside his coat. Eat, coat, eat, said Nazretin. Nazretin picked up fish fried in vine leaves and roasted eggplant. Opening his coat, he said, Eat, coat, eat. Nazretin scooped up pilaf, raisins, and pistachio nuts. Opening his coat, he said, Eat, coat, eat. Boiled squash stuffed with hash and olives went into the coat. Eat, coat, eat. Slices of chicken breast stewed in rosewater, sugar cakes, flavored jellies, sherbet, sticky baklava, pomegranates, persimmons, oranges, apples, figs, and dates. All of this food Nazretin stuffed into his bulging coat, shouting, Eat, coat, eat. Finally, Nazretin opened his coat once more and poured a whole bottle of wine inside. Then, closing his coat as best as he could, Nazretin patted his belly and smiled at his host. All the guests were amazed. What was Nazretin doing? Look at them. What was he doing? At last, the alarmed host said, Tell me, my old friend, why are you feeding your coat? Look at his coat. Surely you wanted my coat to eat, Nazretin replied. When I first arrived in my old coat made of patches upon patches, there was no food for me. Yet when I came back in this new coat, there was every kind of food for me. This shows it was the coat and not me that you invited to the banquet. What do you think of what he said? Remember this, my friends, said Nazretin Hoka. If you want to look deeply, look at the man and not his coat. You can change the coat, but you cannot change the man. A coat may be fine, but a coat does not make a man. Outside a man may wear sheepskin, but inside he may wear the heart of a wolf. Many a good man may be found under a shabby coat. With coats, new are best, but with friends, old are best. Everyone cheered. The wisdom of Nazretin Hoka calls for a celebration, exclaimed the host. Music and fireworks resounded, and everyone danced under the stars of heaven. He who wears heaven in his heart is always well dressed. The end.